Hey, it's me, Baldur3, and welcome to my RareWare Retrospective series. We continue this series with Brass Corps, which is one of the lesser known RareWare games on the Nintendo 64. Of course, this is in comparison to all the other RareWare Nintendo 64 games that I'm going to cover, because this is RareWare Golden Era. And pretty much Brass Corp is probably the least best game among a full all-star roster. So this is no disrespect to Brass Corps, just in comparison. Well, I talk about it more once we get into the actual review. But is Brass Corp a game that people should be asking a sequel for, or should this game stay one-hit wonder? Let's find out. Now, remember the other games that I reviewed, the Donkey Kong Country series and Killer Instinct? Well, forget about those games because none of those guys ever worked on Brass Corps. Instead, we got a small group of new developers to work on this game, while the original members of RareWare were working on other games, one of them being Project Dream. And I'm pretty sure all you know what that is, but for right now, we're going to talk about that one for later. Now, as for any beta footage, well, I just managed to find this short video that is pretty much a Japanese, well, maybe not commercial, but a Japanese trailer, which was called Brass Doge over there, and some few photos of some scrapped machines idea, including a scorpion and a crusher. Now, I believe the scorpion was cut because they thought it was like too over the top and didn't offer anything unique compared to the other vehicles they have in the game. For the crusher, I don't know. I think one of them were rejected because it's kind of like this human android, and the person that you control, you have to enter the crusher of the machine to pretty much get into it and control it. That's their words, not mine. I'm not sure it was scrapped because of that idea or the same reason as the scorpion. Now, you may have noticed that the beta footage kind of looks more presentable than the actual finished project. Well, that's because the demos that they use for Brass Dozer came in this cartridge that looks like the N64 cartridge, but 3 times its size. Now, I'm pretty sure they don't use these, to sell because, well, it'll probably cost like 3 times as much as the average Nintendo 64 games, which was like about $50 to $60 each. So, well, no way anybody's gonna buy a game, even if it's that good, for probably 3 times the amount. I forget why they do this. I remember finding out the answer one time, like a few years ago. I'm sorry if I didn't come fully prepared for this, but if anybody had the answer why developers use these cartridges to show off demos of games that they're necessarily not going to get in the final project, please let me know. Like in this case, what you see is what you don't get. Not that the final project game is terrible looking, as I'll demonstrate later on, but it does seem pretty misleading. But anyways, that's it for the beta. Now it's time to play the game. Now, the story of Brass Corps is that you're part of this elite group of construction workers with some interesting construction tools, which we get into later. And pretty much most of your mission is involving protecting this explosive fire truck thing. If it makes contact to any building or anything at all, it explodes and you fail the mission. Usually, to complete the mission, for the most part, you destroy buildings. Now, why not just move that fire truck thing away from the buildings? I don't know. I guess using logic will ruin most of the game. But pretty much that's your mission. And, well, I don't mind crazy stories, but every time I play this game, I feel like I'm always the bad guy. Like, this is a redneck version of Grand Theft Auto, except you're not stealing things, just destroying buildings and pretending that you are the hero. But, other than that, story is not really that much of an issue this is just one of the interesting ones. Now the way I'm going to do this is to talk about each specific vehicle that you control and maybe bring up some of the mission that is interesting to me. Now usually I try to finish a game that I'm trying to review, but with Brass Quartz case, I think I will make an exception here, mainly because all you do is go mission to mission doing similar stuff over and over again. So if you're disappointed that I don't talk about everything in the game, I apologize, but I feel there's no need to. Now the first vehicle I'm controlling here is the standard bulldozer. Destroy pretty much anything, and controls pretty well for the most part. The only minor complaint is that, and this is applied to pretty much most of the vehicles here, is that the turning is very sensitive. Now I'm not sure if it's the Xbox One version, the one I'm playing right here. I'm not sure if this is exclusive to that, because I never really noticed it the first time I played it as a kid. But then again, this is one of the first 3D games that I ever played, so I didn't really expect any kind of standard. But other than the slippery controls, it works pretty fine. Next we have the American car, aka the racist car, I like to call it, because the horn play, I wish I was in Dixie. Now this car is not really great for destruction unless you build up enough speed, but it's really mostly used to get to one vehicle to another, which I will demonstrate later on. But the most interesting about this vehicle, to me at least, is that this American car was this game was developed by a British company, RareWare, and published by a Japanese company, Nintendo. And well, I guess because this seems like more American things to do, destroying stuff, which, you know, I don't blame them, but I just thought that's a bit weird for me. Other than that, it's just a basic car. Next we got introduction to J-Bomb, which is the most iconic vehicle in the Brass Quartz series. Now this vehicle pretty much has you flying up and pretty much going down really fast to destroy tall buildings. And in this stage, it's pretty much a tutorial stage. There's not even a fire truck that you have to avoid. It's just destroying tall buildings that looks perfectly fine, but we gotta destroy them for some reason. That's very proving that I say that we're playing as the bad guy the whole time. I know I'm not supposed to think too much of the story, but it's kind of hard not to be honest. Next is Sideswipe. Now, pretty much how this car works is it attacks from its sides and you need ammo to pretty much activate the weapon to destroy the buildings, pretty much. I'm not sure how to describe that, but in order to get full effect of Sideswipe, you need to be as, well, not too close to the building, because getting too close will deal a minimum amount of damage, but you can't be too far away or won't hit its target. It's gotta be just right. Not very precise as I'm trying to make it out to be, but you can't be too close to it, which will probably be the biggest problem with Sideswipe. But this car is pretty cool by design, but unfortunately it's pretty ordinary car. Next we get Backlash, which is probably the least favorite of my vehicles. Now to be fair, I think this is more of a me problem than an actual game problem. Now the way to control Backlash is that you must master drifting and have the back of the car hit the building for massive damage. You can still do damage in the front of the car, but it takes a long time. And drifting takes a while to get used to. The problem I have with drifting is that it's always turned too tight and too quickly. Like, it's, again, this is probably a me problem, but I feel like the controls are too sensitive at times. But to be fair, I don't think it's a bad vehicle. I think anybody who takes some time to get some more practice on it can master this vehicle very well and become pretty useful. But as for me, I just couldn't get used to it. Now back to the regular mission of the game. There's one thing I forgot to mention is that after you finish the mission of escorting the explosive fire truck to the checkpoint, you can go back to that level and you can explore around a bit without worrying about the explosive fire truck. Now this is really important because you need to do this to 100% the game and open new areas. Now the exploring part is actually pretty fun, but it can get pretty weird sometimes, and I'll explain later on. Actually, here's one of the crazy missions to get J-Bomb, one of the most powerful vehicles in the game. First you need to find the bulldozer, which can be somewhat difficult to find. It's not really hard to find, it just takes a bit of time in this. You got like a strategy map, and then drag that TNT box to that door over there, which, you know, the controls can be pretty sensitive, so be careful. Now once you get that door, it leads to a train that you need to take and get to another section of the game, and that leads to Ballista, which is pretty much this motorcycle like vehicle with 2 missiles, and then you need to carefully aim the vehicle to another door, and then once you get that, you take that door, walk a little bit longer, and then you lead to J-Bomb. This game is pretty creative, I give it that. It's actually kind of fun too, but it can be a bit of a time waster, to be honest. But you know, it's a fun time waster. Here's another crazy one from a different level. First you get J-Bomb on top of this platform over here, and then search around for this little squirrel spot that you can find. Go over it and you can go right through it, which leads you to an underwater tunnel. Take that all the way through there, and then you get a red car. Yeah, finding that vehicle is a bit anticlimactic, but again, some of the fun is actually finding these hidden areas that you can't normally find by yourself. Next we have Thunderfist, who pretty much does cartwheels and destroy buildings with this one big arm. A little fun fact about this vehicle is that originally he was going to have 2 big arms, but the developers couldn't find a way to make that happen. I think there's not enough memory, so they had to settle with 1 big arm instead. The Ballista, as I mentioned earlier in the video, is this motorcycle thing with missiles. Now the developer had a really fun and creative idea with this vehicle, not only how it's designed, but how to complete missions, like finding secret areas at the door that I showed earlier off ago, and right here you see I have to destroy a boat using this machine. That's the only way I can do it. Other than that, that's really the only unique thing about the Ballista. It's a fun vehicle. The last car I'm going to talk about is Skyfall. This is probably the second most difficult car to control. Again, this is by comparison, mainly because of the speed and how you destroy buildings with it. What you do with Skyfall is boost up next to a steep hill and pretty much gain altitude and then on top of a building. But other than that, Skyfall is pretty fun to use. Now, since I said everything about this game, I decided to give my final thoughts and review on this game. Now, as a kid, I lived to play this game a lot, like to try the different vehicles, explore the place and find secret areas, and the music was pretty great. I recommend looking up the soundtrack. Now, as I play this again, like say, like about 15 years later, I think, maybe 20. No, 15. Yeah. But either way, the game still hold up pretty well. Of course, some things didn't age well, like the controls can be a bit slippery. Of course, the graphics is, well, it's not the worst aging looking N64 game, though I am playing the Xbox One version, which the graphics is probably a bit more polished, especially when it's compressed down to a smaller screen. But still, the graphics is pretty nice, and the camera, well, the camera is passable. I guess I'm so used to having the camera rotate with the right control stick that you know playing with the camera like this can be, well, I won't say uncomfortable, but it does take some time to get used to. Do I ever see Brass Corp ever getting a sequel? Unfortunately, no. I mean, it's a great game and I do love it, but this is one of those rare cases where I think this is the game that it should be one and done. The only way I can ever see a proper sequel if they focus less on destroying buildings and escorting the explosive fire truck, and more on the exploration part, like finding secret areas using different vehicles. I think that could work, though I think that would kind of defeat the purpose of a Brass Court game, but not by much, compared to, like Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, a game that I probably get to for a long, long time ago, but back to Brass Corps. I do really recommend Brass Corps. It's a fun game. It's definitely something you should experience, whether if you're a long-time RareWare fan or just want to play some of the old games that was on the Nintendo 64. Brass Corps should definitely be on the list, though there are plenty of other games that you should play first before this, but you should definitely make some time for this game. Now, how well did Brass Corp did? Well, it sold about 700,000 units. Now, that's probably over its lifetime, so I'm not sure how fast this game sold. It was a launch title, so I'm pretty sure it didn't do as well as Super Mario 64. But from all the reports that I read, it sounds like it was a successful game. Now, would I imagine Brass Corps ever making a sequel to this game? Well, according to reports from one of the developers, I think they were thinking about it, but they decided against it because they don't know how to make a sequel to this game. As in, I think pretty much what to do differently and not make it like the same game over again. And, I'm not the only one who thinks that either. But, once this came out on the Xbox One, on Rare Replay Collection, they listed Brass Corp as the standout game overall. Like, this game really impressed them among other titles like Perfect Dark, Banjo-Kazooie, Grab by the Goodies. That's not a good example. Jet Force Gemini. So I guess I was wrong that this title is forgotten. Now, what I meant by forgotten is that I meant that every time we talk about RareWare, you hear about, Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong Country Series, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, heck, even Diddy Kong Racing and Jet Force Gemini you hear first before Brass Corps. So that's what I meant about that. But, to be fair, Brass Corp will probably get more mention than all the recent games that RareWare made, like Nuts and Bolts and Cameo, Grab by the Goodies, as I mentioned before. So, not that that's really competition, but still, I think I was wrong by calling it a game that is forgotten. I guess overlooked would be more accurate. But again, if a game like this was ever made a sequel or maybe a remake, I imagine it'd be one pretty expensive game considering the graphics that we have today. I mean, I'm thinking, like a building similar to the one on Killzone on the PlayStation 4, that tall building you saw in the trailer. Imagine that being destroyed, that's probably alone would cost a lot of money. But, if a Brass Corp sequel was ever made, yeah, I'd definitely play it. I mean, of course, I'm a RareWare fan, but Brass Corps seems like a one and done deal to me. But I could be wrong. Alright, Brass Corp is down, and next up is GoldenEye 007, and that's going to be a long one to record and to review. But hey, what a great way to kick off 2016 with a retrospective review of GoldenEye. I'd like to thank you for watching, and please support FighterXaos, who made my thumbnail. If you want to support him, he's also taking commissions, or you can just simply watch his webcomics. Links will be in the description below. Thank you for watching my review. Like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me what I can do better, or pretty much any ideas you have. But anyways, have a Merry Christmas, and I'll catch you guys later.